Hey guys, we got an interesting subject to talk about today, but before I get into it, I just wanted to make a note about something else which I think is even more important than any of these subjects, and that's attitude. So we're getting into some topics that could be considered pretty controversial, of course, but I want to make a note that I'm not here to start an argument or a debate or a fight about who's right. That's so irrelevant and it's so distracting. You know, we've all got the same issues that we need to figure out, and we're hopefully here to help each other explore and find out whatever is true. It's irrelevant who brings it up or who's right or wrong. There's no ego in this stuff, okay? It's like real science is after whatever's true. It's not like what passes for science nowadays in most places in academia and medical industry and everything, where you just memorize something by hearing it a million times and then you think it's true. It's the same thing with spiritual quest or trying to find what you can about yourself, about the source you came from, about God and all that. If you just find a belief system and memorize it, you haven't really found out anything except what that system says. And it's the same with all of these subjects that we talk about. I'm just bringing up ideas. I want you to figure it out for yourself and do the discovery, do the exploration that you have to do. That's what the whole thing is about. So this particular topic about raw milk, I think raw milk is probably the most demonized and attacked natural food in the US for sure, and some other places, attacked by government. But what's the real story? And it's not just government. There are a lot of people who sincerely think, vegans for example say that milk is just terrible for humans to consume beyond just a little bit when you're first born and you don't have teeth or anything. And they cite the China study and other documents that explain why it's so terrible and why it will give you all these diseases and give you osteoporosis and heart disease and a few other things you don't want to get, and that it's unnatural. Some of them even go so far as to say that babies shouldn't nurse very long. You get them off mother's milk as early as you can. I've heard our friend Dr. Moore say stuff like that. And at least for the grown-ups and the people who have teeth, I agree in a way. It seems like fruit is probably the most natural. It has a good taste. It is convenient. You just pick it off a tree and it's right there. You don't have to break any shells or process it. If you're living in a natural environment for humans where there's lots of sunlight all year and you're walking around outside all the time, and kind of the way that the species was developed, which is most likely in southern Africa originally, that's why the whole racial thing is so stupid, by the way, is because all the humans started in the same part of the world and then they just migrated around. But in that environment, it makes sense that fruit kind of looks like the natural food of man, and there have been books written about that. The problem is, in the current conditions, I also tried being a fruitarian for a while, and for myself and other fruitarians that were really doing it seriously that I met long term, their experience was not good. And even the ones that have done it for 20 some years, to me, you look carefully at how they look and their general condition, they look like they're really aging noticeably and badly by the time they get to 40 or 50 or 60 or something like that. And that's not normal. That if we figure out how to be in this place in a way that really works, we're not going to age the same way. I'm absolutely sure of that. So the problem is, in the current conditions, long-term fruitarianism doesn't really work. It has problems for 99.999% of the people that stay on it for a long time. And the same with raw veganism. Most of them go back to adding some cooked food, and they start saying, well, 25-30% cooked food is okay, fine, it's fine. And the thing is, they've just finished saying why cooked food is dead, has no life force, it's the foundation for getting all these diseases and infections, and microorganisms come in to break it down because it's dead, and then they cause other problems in the body, which I think is true. And but people have a problem staying on 100% raw, organic, raw whole food for their whole life. And a lot of the raw food teachers, some of the really inspiring ones like Marcus Rothkranz, stick to it and say, well, you should only be on raw food because it's alive, and that's where our vitality is supposed to come from. You eat for absorbing life force, not for any one specific nutrient. The main nutrient that science doesn't even recognize now is life force, and that's to a great degree eliminated when you cook food above like 115 or so Fahrenheit. You can warm it up, and so you don't get cold in the winter and stuff, but if you heat it above about 115, it starts really being dead. So Matt Monarch, great raw food teacher that I met and talked to, said that most of the people who stay on 100% raw food, he agreed, they get really skinny, weak, unstable psychologically. He made a great video about that, why cooked food is better. I think it's really interesting. You might like to see it on YouTube. And most of the raw vegans who really want to stay on raw food really get dependent on supplements, B12 and protein powder and other things like that. Iodine, I haven't even found a way to get away from iodine, but the other ones, they're really trying to make up for whatever it is they're not fully getting, and they usually say, well, the soil, the key phrase is the soil is depleted. Yeah, but I think it's more than that. There's something else going on. And most vegans eating the cooked food, they still look pretty bad as they age to me. And I experience the same thing, the bad effects of cooked food. And when you get really sensitive to comparing how you feel after eating different things and you really pay attention, then I think you may come to some similar conclusions. So, but I was getting bad effects as a raw vegan too. I used it for detox and fasting and stuff like that, and got very cleaned out my body, but after that I couldn't build it back up. And the protocol for building and the protocol for detox are not the same thing, and that's often misunderstood, I think, by the raw food people and others. So what could I do? I was not going to go back to cooked food. I was really determined. I was clear on the aging and kind of dulling effects of the cooked food. I really didn't want it. I noticed that it made me susceptible to infectious disease, which I didn't get on the raw food. So I took a step that is outside the box of the vegans, and especially the raw vegans, and I consumed a liquid food that you're absolutely not supposed to eat as an adult. It's probably the worst food in the solar system, if not in the whole galaxy, I'm not sure. But I said, I've got to figure out something, and I'm not going back to cooked food. So I started using organic raw milk from animals that were not abused, that were really taken good care of. And I started getting better the first day. Now, I got congestion, and I felt like I was going to get a cold and a sore throat and stuff like that. But my theory was that that's because the bacterial balance, the microorganism balance in the gut that you need to successfully process it, like every baby mammal does when they're born, is just not there anymore. You've been changing that balance with other food, maybe with processed food or meat or chemicals or whatever, Diet Coke, even regular Coke, and not just Coke, any soft drink really messes things up. Maybe you've taken antibiotics from well-meaning doctors. And so I did test out that theory. I went through the congestion. It lasted several months. Lots of time for me to say, yeah, milk is terrible, get rid of it, it's really destroying my health. But I kept with it, and eventually it went away, and I think my theory was proven to be correct, at least in that experience. And then I didn't get any more congestion, no feeling of a cold, no more sore throat thing. I stayed really clean. My body would smell fresh even if I didn't get to wash it for a while. It was pretty incredible, and I got back a decent amount of muscle tissue that I had lost like 30 pounds of muscle being a raw vegan. And I got that back. I got my body heat back, comfortable in the winter, go swim in cold rivers in the winter. I was fine. Psychological sense of calm and stability came back, and that was many years ago. So now I don't get sick. I mean, I can't even remember the last time I was sick. I stay really clean. My skin's different. I don't burn in the sun anymore. Bright light doesn't bother me. You can look at the sun, it doesn't bother me at all. Don't try that at home, okay? I'm not suggesting it, but I'm saying you can get to a point where your body gets back to its normal state or more. I'm still working on steps. I feel like I'm a beginner in all this, but I just have to share it with you because this is not a debate, right? We're doing this together, so I don't mind finding out where I'm wrong about things, and once you can drop that concern, then everything gets much better. The only thing is, I have to finish with this, that as far as raw milk is concerned, I totally agree with the vegans that I am not going to hurt animals. I'm not going to kill them and eat their bodies. I'm not going to do it. The reason is not because of a belief. I'm not even interested in beliefs anymore. It's because I can see the animal through their eyes, and I can see who they are. And they're not a thing. They're not an inanimate object that we're just supposed to abuse as we want. They're very sentient beings. They're emotionally wide awake, and just because they don't do calculus or, talk like humans and things like that, does not mean that they're dead or just walking around like zombies on what science calls disparagingly the word instinct. They're quite wide awake, and they're a lot more perceptive than most humans in some ways. So I'm not going to hurt them. And I know long ago, like in the time of Krishna or maybe in the time of Jesus too, they were using raw milk, but they didn't kill the animals. When they got older and stopped producing as much milk, they didn't just kill them and sell them off to be eaten. All the male babies, when they were born, they didn't say, well, we don't need these guys, we're just going to kill them and eat them. They were smarter than that, and they didn't do it. And there was a system they had that did not produce an explosion of the population of dairy animals, and they didn't have those problems, and they had some way to deal with that, and I don't know what it was. And I want to get it back. And I've called Hindu temples and Buddhist monasteries and things all over the planet. Nobody that I've talked to remembers, but I know that knowledge is still there. So I'm really interested in finding it. If any of you guys have any information about it, let me know. I'm going to continue until I find it and bring it back. If we get to start our school, I want to make this a part of it to demonstrate that with a complete farm beyond organic farming the way it really is supposed to be. So I just wanted to share that with you. I'm just suggesting you might not want to get caught by labels, belief systems. I mean, the more you can directly perceive and experience something, the less you have any interest in beliefs. Because a belief is just something you have to defend. It makes you fight with other people that should be your allies, because we're all human beings just trying to find out whatever is true, right? So just care about what's true. And if it breaks what you thought was true, say thank you. I didn't want to stay, with that misunderstanding. I'm one step closer now. And if we take it with that attitude, we're all on the same team. And it makes a way better world. Okay, so I'm encouraging you, be an explorer, investigate things, find out, not to fight about it, but to know, so that you can use it. And when you can use it, you can help other people, not by making them do what you're doing, but they're going to see your example, and they're going to be affected by it. And it's very powerful. You don't even have to say a word. So do it on your own, do it with friends. Do it in our support environment club platform, lostartsradio.com/club if you want to. That's a great kind of private place that we can speak openly, and I meet you there in person every week. But if you don't want to do that, it's fine. Just do it whatever way feels good for you. and explore. It makes life super exciting, and you find out that all the limitations you thought you had, they're not true. And that makes things fun. This kind of work is serious work, but it's fun work. It's exciting, and it's realizing that everything is magical and beyond that. And it's not some evil thing that you have to make into this dreaded discipline and just have a really miserable time because you're working so hard. That's the wrong picture of work. Work, if you really enliven it, becomes the most fun thing you could do. So join me, either by yourself or in the club with us, and either way, I'll see you next time.